We're going to be talking about something super important, and it's so important right now with what's happening in our world, in our country, and especially right here where we're living. We're talking specifically about the coronavirus and also ways to protect ourselves. And so join me all the way to the end. I'm going to give you 7 vital actions to take right now to improve immune function. So let's get going. We're talking about the coronavirus outbreak, what you need to know. I want you to know that even though sometimes problems can be so big, we might want to stick our head in the sand and say, there's nothing I can do. I want you to know that there are specific actions you can take right now. In fact, I encourage and I urge you to do at this really important, critical time. And the reason why I say it's a critical time is because things are happening right now, especially if you're where I am in Idaho. We've been able to kind of sit back a little bit and watch what happens in other places in the world, other places in the country. We've seen New York and other places just get bombarded by this thing. And so I want you to know that even though we've had it very mild and very calm in the recent times, the time to act is exactly right now. And that's why I am so urgent on this, and I'm sending this out to you right now. So once again, thank you for taking the time to spend with me to go over this critical information. So we're going to give some super helpful tips towards the middle and the end. I really want to take 2 different approaches. Number one, I want to talk about the coronavirus, what it is, specific actions for that. And then the second portion of today's information, specific actions to keep our body healthy. Because really, if we're going to survive this thing in a good way, we have to have a strong body. In other words, we have to go on the offense. Okay, when I say we have to go on the offense, it's not, we don't go on the offense to offend, but we go on the offense to defend ourselves, those we care about, everything we love. Because like it or not, everything we know is going to be different. What we're seeing right now in our backyard is the 9/11 of healthcare. This is really a test of our system and our people to know if we can handle this or not. And I want to give you some things so that you will be on the surviving side. So let's get going. So here's one resource. If you look in the middle, this is from the Great Courses Plus. The reason why I really like this is because it's a very balanced view. It's not an alarmist view. If you watch the news, you're probably getting freaked out every other minute. So I encourage you, pay attention a little bit to the news, but don't have it on a continuous stream. You are going to freak yourself out. Your stress levels are going to go high. That'll shut down your immune system, and you'll have a much better chance of catching it or having worse problems if your nervous system is overwhelmed by the stress that you're experiencing by watching the news. And so here's a great resource, the Great Courses Plus. You can get it free for 1 month. That's what we did when school shut down so that our kids can continue learning. There's all kinds of information available on all kinds of different topics for kids or for adults to just continue to learn and grow during this time when things are shut down. And I mean, just word of note, we've never seen anything like this in our lifetimes where the whole world basically is shut down. People have lost their jobs. And so my heart is out with each of you if this is the case. My sympathies are with you. And so I want to do my part to support you at home or wherever you might be. And here's one resource. And so I'll take a couple of brief excerpts from the Great Courses course on the coronavirus outbreak, what you need to know. We're talking about where it came from. So this specific strain, COVID-19 coronavirus from 2019 originated in China. From there, it spread extremely rapidly and it infected in areas of all parts of the world, to include the United States. And so, like I said, in Idaho, we've been able to sit back a little bit, but I want you to be on your guard because right now is the time to act. It is hitting now, and it is spreading fast. When I say it's spreading fast, the reason it spreads is because 2 reasons. Number one, you don't have to have symptoms to be able to spread the coronavirus. Number 2 is that the way it transmits is what we're seeing. The experts, especially out of New York, what they're saying is that the way this thing spreads is from most people infecting themselves. What this means is they touch either someone or something with their hand, and then they bring it up to their face, and they touch their face. So by touching an object and then touching your own face is how most people are going to get this. And so when we talk about tips to avoid, that's going to be one of the big ones. And so this is what they're noticing. It can happen with or without symptoms. And in fact, one of the dangers with this thing is that a lot of people are going to have no symptoms. And I'm not just talking about no symptoms early, I'm talking about no symptoms at all or very mild symptoms. So a lot of people are not even going to know that they have had it. And so, even though all we hear about on the news is how deadly this thing is and how dangerous it is, I want you to know that most people are going to have either very mild symptoms or no symptoms at all. So, before we get any further, I want you to know that even though I am a doctor, I may or may not be your doctor. And so, please, if you have any questions about anything specific, please talk to your doctor. Um, yeah, by a word. All right, so here are some of the symptoms of the coronavirus. Many people will experience fever, body aches, coughing, or shortness of breath, or no symptoms at all. Some, if they're more severe, could have a sore throat, a headache, diarrhea, or extreme respiratory problems. Those infected with the coronavirus predominantly will be just fine. They'll get over it. Their bodies will be strong, they'll be healthy, and they'll take care of it. Uh, what they're estimating is about 20% will experience severe pneumonia, which can be life-threatening. And of this, they're expecting a 2% mortality rate. So to put things in perspective, do we need to freak out about this? No. Okay. And so that's my encouragement for you today. One of the take-home bottom lines is you don't need to be freaked out about this. Most people will be just fine. Okay. We'll talk about who is more at risk, but to a large degree, 98%, nothing really extreme to be worried about, but it's really important to be vigilant anyway. And in fact, this graph puts things more into perspective. That green bar is people that will have gotten it, will have gotten over it, but will have experienced no symptoms at all. Okay. And so here's the problem is that many people who are immune compromised will be more at risk of mortality, which is death, more at risk of severe problems. So we want to take this seriously. We don't want to take it lightly. So let's dive in. What in the world can we do? What actions can we take, like I said, to go on the offensive, not to offend, but to defend ourselves and those we love? Important tip number one, this has to do with the face. Never touch your face with your hands during these few weeks that we're really on guard. Okay, like I mentioned, that's how it spreads. You touching someone or something, and then you have it on your hands, and then you reach up, you wipe your eye, you rub your nose, something like that, and then you infect yourself. 90+% of all people who are going to get this or have gotten it do it this way. And so what you need to do is isolate yourself if sick, of course. Wash your hands frequently. And by the way, I'm loving my alligator skin gloves that I'm wearing right now because I've washed my hands hundreds of times with this thing. After every patient, I'm taking extra precautions, spray down the tables, wipe the tables, I'll wash my hands after every patient. But definitely it's doing a number. And so my hands really are like alligator skin. And also, please, please, please don't touch your face unless you have recently, or not recently, but just washed your hand is the only time, or if you're in the shower, okay? So you want to avoid exposure. And so out of the 7 tips, this is not one of them. We're going to get to those 7 tips in just a minute. These are just best practices in general, but especially during this time of urgency with the coronavirus. So hand washing, of course, disinfecting surfaces. Specifically, I think about a cell phone. Okay, if your cell phone is on the seat of your car and you're driving and then you go somewhere, you touch it, you drive somewhere else, you wash your hands, and then you come back and you touch your cell phone again, there's a potential that you have contaminated your cell phone. So things that we touch, surfaces, laptops, tablets, devices, anything where there's a potential for exposure, you want to be super vigilant about surfaces and disinfecting surfaces because the coronavirus, as I mentioned, it doesn't have to be someone coughing on you or sneezing on you, which can transmit it through the droplets, but you can actually touch a doorknob, touch other surfaces, and then touch your face and potentially contract it that way. So social distancing, even though it may have seemed extreme when we first started doing the social distancing, when they first started shutting down schools and people started losing jobs because many venues were shut down, entertainment, restaurants from one sector of the economy, one sector of our culture to the next was being shut down over and over. The social distancing, it seemed, wow, this is really extreme. But in the current environment, it does seem to be the practical approach. And so let's just get through this. Let's get back to our daily lives after we've what they call flattened the curve. What flattening the curve is not creating a huge mass of people that are all suffering at once. And that would overwhelm our healthcare system, specifically the medical or the hospital setting. So that's the whole goal of social distancing, is so that we don't overwhelm the system all at one time. And so I do encourage you to maintain social distance, do things together, because as we'll talk about later, social support is super important. But at this point, we do want to physically distance just to slow the spread. Our goal is not to stop it. This isn't something we're going to stop. What we want to do is we want to strengthen our own bodies, and we want to practice best practices to slow the spread and not infect if we don't have to. So, but once again, I put that really importantly: do not touch your face. All right, so here are the 7 health promoting vital behaviors I need you to start today if you're not doing. If you are doing it, continue to do these things, okay? Getting adjusted. I am a chiropractor and our office is still open. The reason why I do not intend to close the office is because, as I mentioned before, times of stress. The nervous system, which is protected by your spine, is your master controller, and it's the interpreter of all stress. Any stress that comes into your body from any source, whether it's in your own brain, whether it's from the environment, whether it's physical, whether it's chemical, whether it's something you put in or smoked or drank or whatever, any source of stress is processed by your brain, and then your brain triggers your body to respond appropriately to that stress. And so the reason, as a chiropractor, during these times of increased stress, I remain open is because it's vital with the adjustment. If it needs to happen, we need to do it now to create the best potential for your body to deal with whatever comes your way by reducing the stresses on the nervous system. So that's number 1. Number 2, vitamin C, vitamin D, and vitamin K2. We'll talk about these. Eating healthy, we have some general guidelines that I'll go over. Staying hydrated, super important in all times of life, especially in times of stress like this. Physical fitness when feeling good, okay, and what that has to do with is really paying attention to the inner voice, paying attention to your body and what it's telling you. When you're feeling good, your body should be telling you, let's move, let's energize. And sometimes symptoms from the body, things like backaches, are telling you, hey, we need to be up more. We need to not be in this position. So really listening to your body, listening to the inner voice, trusting your gut. These are all super important things. When you're sick, it's important not to move as much. You do need some movement, but you're not going to be as vital. You're not going to be as energized and as enthusiastic about your workout routine, and that's okay. Take the rest you need. Super important is sleep and rest. Your body regenerates and recovers during times of sleep. So especially in times of increased stress, we need our sleep even more so. And then of course, stay positive. And that's really what I want to promote during this time, is not to freak you out, but instead to tell you that things are going to be okay as long as you're doing the right things, you're taking the right action. Your body is smart, your body's intelligent, your body is wonderful, and you will get through this. So here are some super important do's and don'ts when we're talking nutrition, okay? Our eat healthy, non-starchy vegetables, super important. Vegetables that are not potatoes, that are not, even though they may have come from the ground, sometimes they are high in sugar. For example, things like rice, wheat, etc. So non-starchy vegetables. Some fruit is good, meat and poultry and fish, range-fed eggs, natural fats, some nuts and seeds, and drink water. So the foundation is vegetables in plenty, lean meats and organ meats in moderation, some nuts and seeds, some fruits, water to drink. I mean, if you took those guidelines, you would be doing really, really well. The best food you're going to get is from the natural source, which means from the ground. You know, pulling a carrot out of the ground and eating it is going to be much better than a processed bagel, for example. And so you want to get as close to nature as possible when you're talking proper nutrition. That's the way your body recognizes it. That's what your body requires. That's what your body wants. And if you give that to your body, you are going to be doing just great. So here are some of the don'ts. So things like refined carbohydrates, cereals and grains which are high in sugar or turn into sugar, sweeteners, Practically every kind. There are one or two that are going to be tolerable, but for the most part, sweeteners, you need to get a grip on the sweet cravings. Okay, if you're feeding a sweet craving, you are producing neuroendocrine disruption. You're creating problems with hormones if you're feeding that sweet craving. Your body requires sugars from natural foods like vegetables from the ground. That's the only way in all of human history up until not too long ago when we started processing those things. That's the only way your body got sweeteners was in the form of a fruit or vegetable. So if you feed your sweet cravings, fruits and vegetables, and that alone, you're going to do much better because there's cofactors and enzymes and all kinds of things that are in whole foods that are not in sweeteners. All that stuff's been stripped away, and all you get is the sugar. So you hit the sweet button to the brain. Your brain says, "Ah, thank you," okay, and it blows up those receptors in your brain. And now you'll never be able to enjoy whole fruits and vegetables like they were intended to. Your body is actually supposed to enjoy fruits and vegetables as its sole source of sweetener. Okay, so I'm not going to get, this is not a sweetener um, discussion today, but this is one of the critical points, especially if we want to stay well, especially if we want to have a healthy functioning immune system. When we get to vitamin C and sugar, that'll become more apparent. You want to stay away from bad vegetable oils. These include anything that says vegetable oil on it. Corn, safflower, safflower, canola. These are bad vegetable oils, high in omega-6s. We're not going to go into that today. They compete with omega-3s. They drive up inflammation. So some oils that are okay are olive oil, avocado oil, and which are very healthy oils and help regenerate, but not I do not consider these vegetable oils. If you have vegetable oil in the house, you need to get rid of it. It is toxic. Things like palm and coconut oil are actually saturated fats, which are fine because they don't go rancid, they don't go bad. You can actually cook with these oils, and they're fantastic. They're actually very, very healthful oils. Okay, you want to avoid dairy products. Yes, dairy products. Yes, I know my kids come home from school and tell me that dairy is one of the main food groups. I understand that. I was taught that as a kid as well. However, when we talk about mucus production in our bodies, later that is something super important, especially with the way that dairy is processed in the United States. The reason why we have to homogenize and the reason why we have to pasteurize is because oftentimes the source where the cows, the way they're treated is not good. And so there's nasty stuff that can potentially get into the milk. And so if you don't pasteurize it, yes, it can cause disease. That's why they require pasteurization in many states. So dairy as a whole, there's several different reasons. We'll cover one or two of them. But if you can begin today to no longer consume dairy, you'll be doing a good thing for your body. You want to avoid soda, juice, and alcohol. You want to avoid sugar. Sugar reduces the function of the immune system. It competes with vitamin C. Sugar and vitamin C look very similar, molecularly speaking. And so when your body takes in sugar, it actually pushes away the ability for your body to absorb vitamin C, which is crucial for your function of your immune system. You don't need to take a bunch of extra vitamin C, but you do need to reduce the sugar so it doesn't prevent your body from using vitamin C appropriately. Okay, so these are some of the tips. If you start with just these alone, you'll be doing a lot better. So what should we add to the body? Here are some certain supplements that we can add. So for sure, 100% omega-3 fatty acid, which is fish oil, either in a capsule or in a liquid form. If you're doing a liquid form, be very conscientious about the way you store it. Dark bottle, in the fridge, away from light, away from heat. Because omega-3 fatty acids, even though they're super vital, they're super good for you, they can go rancid very quickly and very easily. So you want to protect those. So by the way, just as an aside from supplements, as a healthcare practitioner, I do not recommend a ton of supplements. The way that I view supplements is supplementing a good diet. You should be able to get all the healthy nutrients to your body through your food, through your nutrition. And so the only reason we need a supplement is because our diet is deficient. That's the only reason we would need a supplement. So the only supplements I recommend wholeheartedly across the board to everybody are what I call wellness supplements, things you're unlikely to get by eating a normal diet in the United States. And omega-3s it happens to be top of the list. The next one is probiotics, because good bacteria should grow in the soil. They should be part of our food, but we wash and spray and do all these things to our food, so we are not getting the good bacteria. If you want to be healthy, if you want to have a healthy immune system, you must have healthy cells. If you want to have healthy cells, you must provide the cells with proper nutrition. If you're not providing proper nutrition, you might seem like you're okay for a little while, but your body is suffering and it will collapse eventually. I don't know whether it'll take 2 years or 10 years or 20 years, but the clock is ticking. And so with good bacteria, what this does is reestablishes good bacteria in the gut. The omega-3s, it balances out the omega-3, omega-6 balance. It reduces inflammation in the body, and your body has a better ability to fight infections and to protect itself as a whole. If you're going to do a multivitamin, I recommend a whole food type of a supplement. The next one, vitamin C, especially around these times where there's threat to the immune system, especially if you've taken in any sugar at all, you need to be supplementing with vitamin C because it does compete with the sugar. And if you have too much sugar in your body, your immune system will suffer. Vitamin D is considered not necessarily a vitamin, but more of a hormone. It's produced by your body with exposure to the sun. We're not going to go into too many details about that. I like to really take some time and explore that, talk about sun exposure, but we're not going to talk about that today, other than to say sun exposure is healthy even without sunscreen. I do recommend exposure without sunscreen. Call me a heretic, but anyway, like I said, we're not going to go into it today. K2, super important for absorption of your body of vitamin D. So we need to take vitamin D and K2 together. They work better that way. If you do a multivitamin, make sure you're taking lots of the Bs. Selenium is great in support for your immune system as well. Okay, so here's a short list. Some other things that you can do are things like herbal teas can be fantastic. Chamomile to calm. Things like oregano and thyme can be very helpful either as essential oils or as a tea and can support the function of your immune system. I am not recommending across the board things like elderberry, although historically it has been shown to help people's immune systems function better. However, there are people with immune compromised situations, for example, things like diabetes or other types of things, other autoimmune conditions where there's just some unknowns there. And so be wary about adding anything new, but that's why I recommend omega-3s, probiotics, and vitamin D as foundational wellness ones, because those are good for everyone every day for life. All right, so here's what you need to know. Exercise is not an option, okay? It's not something that we can choose to do or not do. It's a required nutrient. Just like vitamin C, just like oxygen to your cells, your body must have daily movement, okay? And if you're not having daily movement, oftentimes your body will express sickness. It will say, I don't like this. I'm going to give you a backache, or I'm going to give you neck pain if you're having poor posture. It'll decrease the immune system function. There'll be other things that happen if you're not giving your body what it needs on a daily basis. So please understand that daily body movement is required. It changes the way your hormones function. As I mentioned before, your brain interprets all stress. That's the neuro part, okay? And your brain, as it's interpreting its stresses, it actually changes the hormones and then it sends that into your endocrine system. That's the neuroendocrine. Your hormones change based on how you move your body. If you move your body a lot, your body will adapt to that. If you move your body very little, it'll adapt to that as well. It's our choice how we move it, and therefore the results of that, the effects of that, were our choice, even though we didn't choose to become obese. By not moving, it pushes us in that direction by the way that our hormones change. And so you got to get moving in order to have a healthy body, healthy cells, healthy system, healthy immune function. Another way that exercise works is through the lymphatic system, which improves your body's immune system with circulation. It's basically like the garbage collectors. It moves when you're moving things around. It allows your body to drain things and collect the garbage and get it away from the cells, so your body can function at a better way. Things like yoga, slowing down, very important. Things like rest, things like sleep. We need to move, and then we need to not move. It's really important for restoration of our healthy system and healthy cells. Super important is sleep. So do this, sleep 7 to 9 hours every night. It helps if you have a consistent bedtime and consistent waking time. If most people are at home during this, we can create our own schedules. We're no longer at the mercy of the school bell or the clock at work. We don't have to do that commute for a lot of us who aren't commuting anymore. And so this can be a very, uh, it's interesting. When my wife and I were walking home from work, I believe it was yesterday, we had this conversation. We said, wow, there's a lot of things we really like about the situation we're in, because we were both walking home from the office to our kids who are doing school on their own. We didn't, he had mentioned we didn't have to, rush them off to two different times at different schools. We didn't have to drop them off, plan their lunches. We didn't have to get them up and do all these other things. And so, I mean, really, we can take this time to just understand what's important in life, really get things dialed in as far as our sleep goes. This is totally doable when we're in total control of our schedule. So do this, sleep 7 to 9 hours every night. I encourage an eat fast on a regular basis, whether it's once a week, once a day, having a period of 15 minutes to an hour where you don't get on any devices, any social media, laptops, which is where I'm recording this right now, tablets or anything else. You just have an eat fast, center with yourself, and pay attention to what's going on inside of you. Or some people do this for an entire day once a week or once a month. Super important also is to nap every day. 15 minutes, I find for myself to be incredibly effective. Some people need more. Some people, 5 or 10 minute recharge is fantastic. But this can regenerate, restore, allow your body balance, and really kick up the immune system so you can fight whatever comes your way. Super important. This is how we think, okay? The thought life. What I want you to understand is that your brain, when it's processing stress, it processes it from three different areas: the thoughts that you think, the chemicals that come into and surround your body, and then also the ways you move your body, okay? So we'll hit those again later, but thoughts that you think. Why this is so critical is because your brain does not know the difference between an image that you vividly imagine, a situation that you vividly imagine, and what's actually coming in from the senses in the current moment. Your brain does not know the difference between what you're imagining inside your brain and what's actually going on around you. We've all had an experience where we, in our own mind, have gone to another time, another place, maybe back when we were a child, and thought of something wonderful and something good, or something that really scared us and cause us grief. We can, in our own minds, go wherever we desire to go, past, present, future, imaginary. Einstein actually, the way he created so much was he would do thought experiments. He would actually sit in his armchair and imagine what happens in an elevator as the speed of light came. Would it bend? Would it go through? How would it do this? So the way that Einstein actually created so much was he sat in his armchair and went to different places around the universe. Just brilliant, brilliant guy. The reason why I bring that up is because your body doesn't know the difference between what you're thinking and what's actually happening. And so your body, your stress hormones, like I mentioned before with exercise, your body will react to what you're giving it, including your thoughts. If you give your body stressful thoughts, your body will respond accordingly, appropriately with stress hormones. We're going to talk about those in just a minute. But what happens is your body, instead of focusing on balance, restoration, and healing, it will instead focus on threat. I call this emergency mode. If you give yourself stressful thoughts, if you watch the news, there's a ton of fear in there. Those thoughts go into your brain, and your brain reacts as if it's happening right now and there's a threat. Okay, so here's what happens when your body is threatened. You do not need an immune system when your body is threatened. As crazy as that might sound, your body, when you're under a source of stress, will downregulate the immune system function because it's incredibly expensive. If you've ever had a cold before, you know what it feels like to be just down in your energy. It's very expensive to ramp up the white blood cells and the other immune fighters in your body. It's expensive metabolically. And so your body will sacrifice that if there's a threat. Why? Because your body needs to run away. It needs to protect itself. There needs to be blood to the muscles. Those muscles need to be able to move, need to be able to fight off a threat. You need to physically get out of there if there's a threat. That's what your body's built for. It's not built that if there's a threat, you ramp up your immune system. No. It actually will shut it down. Your immune system suffers if you're having stressful thoughts. We'll address this a little bit later, and I'll give you some thoughts and some things to do. You want to focus on healing rhythm, okay? Times in the week where you've set aside to just have balance, whether it's a morning routine with yoga, meditation, thought, prayer, however you choose to do in your life. You want to have a daily time where you focus inward and you start to listen to what's actually happening. Listen to that inner voice. Listen to what it tells you. It's incredibly important. Your body is super smart and it knows what to do. You just need to let it do it. All right, so here's the premise, is that healthy is normal. Our bodies were built for success. Okay, your body is smart. I ask my patients all the time, is your body stupid or smart? And then we have that conversation. Your body, as I mentioned before, uses your nervous system as the master controller of all other systems. It's the master regulator, like the central processor of a computer. Everything goes in, everything comes out of there. Your nervous system actually looks for stress and it adapts your body appropriately. Now, how does your nervous system protect itself? Your spine surrounds your nervous system. Your brain is protected by your skull or your bony helmet. Your spinal cord, which is an extension of your brain that carries the signals from the nerves to everywhere in your body, is protected by your spine. Modern life is unnaturally stressful. The ways we sit, especially now if we're not moving as much, if we're confined at home, modern life is unnaturally stressful. Cell phones, our head position, our posture, uh, it's incredibly physically stressful. Also the fear, if you watch the news, like I mentioned before, also the nutrition, if we're not putting in all those good things and we're putting in French fries and Cheetos and all these other, quote unquote comfort foods. If we're doing mac and cheese because it helps us feel better, it triggers dopamine release in the brain, yes, but it also triggers damage to the gut and damage to other sorts of parts of the body and inflammation throughout the body. All these are stresses on your body, and your nervous system picks those up and then appropriately responds with body signals. With headaches and backaches and stomach and digestive problems and decreased immune system function and blood pressure issues, those are all appropriate based on the stressful environment that we give it. So not just in this time of incredible stress, but also in general, in most times, we need to focus on this. This time is, for us, my wife and I, really been a time to reflect and say what's truly important in life and focus on those things. So here's what happens when a stress comes in, whether it's a physical stress, sitting too much, a car accident, fall, trauma, even subluxation. We'll talk about subluxation in a minute. But when a physical stress comes in, your body initiates a stress response. Why? It goes into emergency mode. It tries to protect itself. If you have a if you have an emotional, a mental stress, someone yells at you, you have fear of upcoming uh, deadlines at work, if there's financial stress, if you're not working, these are emotionally stressful events, and your brain will process these and your body responds as if it's in an emergency situation. If you have chemistry coming in that doesn't belong, for example, smoke or inhalation of other chemistry, or you have viruses come in that are pollute your system, your body goes into a threat response, which means it's trying to fight something, run away. And so what happens is your blood pressure goes up. Why? You need those working muscles to have higher rates of blood going in and out of the cells to bring better nutrition to the muscles. Your heart rate will go up for the same reason. The muscle tone will increase. You'll have, more spasms potentially in your body because those muscle tones are prepped to be able to run away and fight something. Digestion upset. Why? You don't need to digest any food while you're running away from a tiger, while you're running away from a threat, a physical threat. Your body is built to survive physical threats. You downregulate the serotonin receptors. Okay? You don't need them as much when you're in a source of threat. Okay? Sensory systems are up. You're more perceptive of pain sensation. Your fear and anxiety are up. Why? Because you need to know if there's another threat coming around the corner. So as you're running away, you don't get sidelined by a different tiger as you're running away. Okay? This is emergency mode. Your body was built for survival from physical threat. This is emergency mode. Your immune response is to downregulate. Why? We already talked about that. It's incredibly metabolically expensive, and so your body will recover following the threat. Once you run away and you restore balance and you can rest and start to digest your food again, now your body's going to increase the immune response. Okay, but when you're in the threat, while you have the fear, the anxiety, the physical threat, the chemical threat, your body's going to downregulate that immune response. Okay, we need that, and so you have to have times where you're in a state of balance every day. Insulin sensitivity is going to go down. The working muscles are going to soak up sugar. They're going to suck that out of the blood. Okay, so insulin receptivity is not needed because the working muscles suck up the sugar. And so even though it sounds stupid to make your body into a type 2 diabetic, It's appropriate because if you continue to have that stress response signaling over and over again, it's appropriate, it's smart, because your working muscles should suck up sugar. And if you're not moving those muscles, that's not your body's fault. It's not because your body's stupid, it's because you're making stupid choices. Okay, the blood sugar is up. Why? You need the sugar in the blood to go to the working muscles to be able to run away or fight. Decreased HDL and increased LDL, okay, your lipid profile will change because you need clotting factors along with the cholesterol to be able to clot up wounds if you get injured. And so you need to have increased LDL. You need to have clotting factors, even though you could die from a stroke or a heart attack if you leave yourself in this situation, stressful situation for too long. It's on purpose. It's because your body's in a threat emergency mode. The response should be to get out of the emergency mode. Take your brain into less stressful thoughts. Start eating better, clean up the diet, make sure you're taking the proper supplements, make sure you don't have subluxation in the spine. By the way, subluxation in the spine is a stressor to your brain. Your brain perceives subluxation as a threat, and so we'll talk about that in just a second. Disruption of sleep. Why? Because your body's anxious. It's going to try to look for exits away from the threat. And so these are all super critical, super important things that your body does on purpose, even though it looks like these would lead to other diseases, which they do. Okay, like I said before, we need to get out of the source of stress. Okay, we need to have balance in the system, and that's what I'm teaching you today: is put balance back into the system. As I mentioned before, so sources of stress are mental, emotional, chemical, physical. Don't need to go into that again. There they are, the three sources of stress. Mentioned before, your nervous system controls all functions, and you have a protector for that. It's a suit of armor. It's the vertebrae. They act like a suit of armor, protecting the delicate nerves that send messages to every part of your body to keep you healthy and healing. From the time you're born to the time you die, you have that system. And so chiropractic is not so great because we're so great. It's so great because your spine and your nervous system are intimately linked, and that's how it's ever going to be. Okay, one protects the other, and if you have a problem in your spine, your nervous system is going to be sending stress up to the brain. Brain processes that, and then it sends down stress response, and then that can affect any of the organs or all the things that we just talked about on the previous slide. Subluxation is when there's a problem in your spine and it's not been taken care of properly, and so it represents joint misalignment, soft tissue damage, creates inflammation or spasms, creates nerve irritation, and that loses inhibition. Inhibition is movement of the spine, okay, so because it's locked down, and that creates joint fixation, and then it won't move, and then that will wear away the disc, and then that will create osteophyte formation, otherwise known as arthritis, and that will increase and elevate stress hormones. Why? Because your spine isn't moving. Your body doesn't get the movement that your body requires, and so you can't change the hormones appropriately, just like we talked about early on when we talked about exercise. Exercise, one of the reasons it's so important is because it gets movement into the spine, and the nerves run through the spine, and the nerves feed the brain. Okay, think of the brain like a windmill. If your body's moving appropriately, the windmill, it generates electricity. If your body is not moving appropriately, the windmill stops and your electricity won't generate. Okay, your brain actually physically, it works like a light bulb. And you have a hand crank. You're cranking the hand crank, and then the light bulb gets brighter and brighter. You move the body, you move the spine, your brain functions better and better. If you sit for 3 or 6 or 8 hours, you watch 2 or 3 or 4 movies in a row, you feel sluggish. Your brain doesn't work properly. You feel brain fog, fatigue, all these other things. If you get up at the very moment, walk around the block, immediately your body starts to feel better. It's not because of blood flow, it's because you're moving the spine, sending good signals up the spinal cord, up to the brain. Your brain is decreasing the amount of stress on it, and your body balances out. It gets into a better healing state. Your immune system functions better, and all the other systems function better when you have a properly functioning spine, nervous system, and a healthy body. Okay, just like all the things I've talked about. So in this critical time, where a lot of us have more time at home, I'm glad you're watching this because it's so important that we don't let certain important things go. We can actually refocus and actually can come out of this thing better off in better health. Okay, so we don't want to have subluxation, which causes nerve irritation, which interferes with your body's innate ability to heal, remain healthy. This is the reason why I'm staying open during this critical time. A lot of places have shut down. We are essential healthcare. Why? Because in times of stress, more subluxation happens to the body. More muscles get irritated and clamp down and cause misalignments in the spine. And so more problems happen. And so if we are not here to adjust the subluxations and remove that stress, then more people will suffer more and more immune systems will be shut down. And this COVID-19, even though yes, it's so important, it's critical right now what we're experiencing, what we're looking at. Um, Something similar to this has happened before. We'll talk about that. And so what I want you to do is understand that we need to adjust the subluxations away from your body so your body can be healthy. Not just yourself, but your family, your kids, your loved ones, okay? Extra adjustments in times of stress. I had a conversation this morning with a gentleman that, and we talked about this exact idea. Stress causes problems in the muscles. Muscles clamp down, cause more subluxation. Oftentimes people need to be adjusted more often than they have been. We also need to break our bad habits. We're sitting a lot at home. We need to move. By the way, another resource I want to give you is Go Noodle. So my kids have been loving it, and I actually did it yesterday. It was awesome. There's a lot of jumping and moving and things in place. So you can. We did screencasting to our TV, so we could see the app on the TV, and it was a blast because you're dancing to some really fun music. But yeah, you got to get up. You got to get moving. You got to break the bad habits. If you're sitting at a laptop, there's no physiological way for you to sit with proper posture. Either your arms or shoulders would be in a bad position, or your head. It's going to mess you up. You have to adopt good habits. You have to eat right. You have to have proper physical movement, proper rest to recover. These are the things you need to be doing in order to come out of this thing, not just okay, but better off. A lot of people can use this time. That's why I'm doing this, why I'm sending it to you. You can be better off after this thing is over. So like I said, this thing has happened before. If you are unfamiliar with the Spanish flu of 1918, it was responsible for 650 to 675,000 American lives. Okay, 10 times more people were lost in America from the Spanish flu of 1918 than were lost during the World War. 10 times the amount of people died from the flu than died from fighting in the World War. Okay, and so I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things that happened. So the chiropractic was fairly new at the time. Just one specific instance, and then I'll go over some of these numbers. There were people in Oklahoma where medical doctors had to do kind of like with this coronavirus, where they had to decide who they could save because they didn't have enough equipment, enough beds to save everybody. And so down here on the right side, midway, Oklahoma, 3,490 influenza cases with 7 deaths. Okay, 1 out of 490 people died. 233 of these cases were considered too far gone by the medical system. And so they actually pushed them away and said, we can't take care of you, you're gonna die. Chiropractors took care of them, and they saved all but 25 of them. Okay, out of the 233 that were considered too far gone, they should have died according to medicine. More than 90% of them were saved by chiropractors, okay? And by the way, that 3,490 influenza cases with 7 deaths, that was under chiropractic care, all right? Why would chiropractic care have any benefit? Just like we talked about, it's the stress, it's the emotions, it's the fear. We need to get us to a state of balance, listen to ourselves, have a time in the morning where we sit and can balance on positivity, positive thinking. But also, subluxation in the spine causes a decrease in the body's ability to maintain its own systems, including the immune system. So your immune system functions better without subluxation. Does that make sense? You have less problems, your immune system will function better because the hormones aren't driven out of whack. Okay, so I just want to cover these last 2 things. So Iowa over here on the left side with medicine, 95,590 influenza cases with 6,116 deaths, or 1 out of 15. Over here on the right side, Iowa, 4,735 cases taken care of by chiropractors with only 6 deaths, 1 out of 789 people. Let's look down here to New York. Left side, medical, 10,000 influenza cases, 950 deaths, or 1 in 11 people dying in New York from influenza. Over here on the right side, down at the bottom, 10,000 influenza cases with only 25 deaths when they were taken care of by a chiropractor. 1 out of 400 people died compared to 1 out of 11 people who were under care with medicine. Chiropractic, why? Many chiropractors look at this point in history, the Spanish flu of 1918, as the reason we're still around in 2020. It's been 100 years since this happened. The reason we're still here is because this happened where we helped people reduce subluxation, improve their immune system function. survived the flu 10 times better than with medicine. And for that reason, we're still around today, but we've forgotten that. This is a time for us to refocus, understand that chiropractic is not for the symptomatic treatment of back pain. It's for your body to reduce the stress on it so your brain can function better, so it can send proper healthy and healing signals to your entire body, including all your organs and systems. Chiropractic focuses on what controls your health. Chiropractic improves the function of your immune system, which improves your response time to invaders, recovery, and resistance to germs. Health comes from the inside and moves outward. So what do we need to stop doing? Grains, gluten, encourage intestinal and bronchial chronic inflammation. Dairy causes thickening of respiratory tract mucus. Eating organic fresh food will diminish the liver toxic load caused by high sugar intake and junk food. So these are 3 things I want you to start doing now. Go back, listen to the information again. I know there was a lot in there. Add the proper supplements. Get your spine checked. If it's been a while since you've been checked and adjusted, make sure it happens this week. Call in. We're still open. I know a lot of other chiropractors, I communicate with them around the country. A lot of them are still open for this exact reason. Going back to this slide, this is why, because we take care of the thing that controls your entire body, not only for you, but for your family as well, for your kids as well. This is why we get checked in my family. This is why I continue to stay open even though there's a threat. I take extra precautions. Like I said, my hands are being torn to shreds because I wash them so much, but that's okay. It's worth it. It's important to take care of our patient. And so the question is stress causing me to be immunocompromised? Have a time, sit down, relax, reflect, understand that there are things within your control. Take action, do some of these steps today. Like I said, if it's been a while, call in and get checked this week. If you're on track and on schedule, continue your getting checked and adjusted. It's fantastic for your body and your health. So what to do if you do happen to contract coronavirus, or if you're already doing sick? Obviously, rest. Listen to your body. Do what it tells you to do. Don't exercise, but get up, walk around, move a bit. Sleep as much as possible. Extra adjustments when needed. Limit or avoid stressful situations. Don't do sugar. Do vitamin C. Drink water. Simple nutrient-dense foods. One of the best ones you'll do is broth and soup. Okay, vegetable-based smoothies are also pretty fantastic. Supplementation, as we talked about before. Give your body time and take action. Don't stick your head in the sand, okay, during these unknown, uncertain times. I love you. I appreciate you. I want what's best for you. And I hope that you take this information, share it with your family and friends, do what's right for you. Get through this time. Don't freak out. Don't panic. Have thoughts of balance and restoration. You can go anywhere you want in your own mind. Take some time to do that daily. Go to happy places. Watch funny movies. Do whatever you need to do. Rely on your social system. Social support is super critical. And so in this time where we're social distancing, communicate. Do like a FaceTime or a Zoom call with your loved ones. Communicate, call, talk to people, let them know what you're suffering with. One thing we noticed after 9/11, and I attribute this, the situation we're in similar to 9/11. What happened was a lot of people found that they recovered better if they were around people who were experiencing similar things and they could talk about it, talking about things, being open, being honest with your friends and with your family. Communicate. You need your social structure. I love you, appreciate you, and we will see you on the other side.